Yeah, I think that like, whenever anybody has that first profound music festival, or it can happen at a concert too, that profound experience that you kind of, looked at the collected within yourself. You kind of have a lot of those little aha moments that, trigger that growth. So I was wondering, what were some of the first exposures to live music that gave you that deeper impact on who you wanted to be in society as opposed to who you were?
Well, I was a big Tool fan
Oh
as a
yeah.
teenager. I had the Undertow album in my car. I swear the tape played for 6 months straight, literally in my car. So, I was just so drawn to that kind of storytelling, kind of dive into the nature of consciousness vibe that they were providing that not a lot of other people were. I think people in the past have done it, obviously,
Right,
like kind of
right.
like Pink Floyd and these different groups that came out in the 60s and 70s. They were doing that. And I feel like, Tool did a good job of capturing that vibe of kind of intergalactic um, exploration of mind, body, and soul. And then they merged again with, Alex Gray, the visual component. So, those audio visuals had a really powerful effect on me. And then, I was listening to the Beastie Boys and other things like that. They also had Alex Gray inside of one of their albums a long time ago with Ill Communication. So they were onto that tip quite a long time ago as well, I
Right.
think.
Yeah, there's something about the merging of art and visual art, or sorry, the merging of music and visual art that I don't know. I think it lures our senses in a way that makes us more in the moment with what's happening because, primarily it kind of draws in more of your attention.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's amazing some of the artwork that's come out over the last couple of decades because of all of these different artists and people coming together and inspiring one another. And that's why I moved to San Francisco, is just to kind of immerse myself in that culture and the bass music and you know um, the West Coast scene just called to me, and even the world music that was happening there with Chebby Sabah,
Hmm.
and kind of opened my mind to like, wow, you can really bridge the gap between different cultures with music as well, which is another big goal, and to create something that kind of breaks down borders and honors everyone's culture in some way. I feel like is kind of an intention behind what I do.
Chebby Sabah, he was the, correct me if I'm wrong, he's the guy who did that one Bass Nectar remix, right? Do I have the same guy in mind?
I believe so. I believe he
Okay.
has done. Or actually, Bass Nectar may have remixed his work, or they worked
That,
together
yeah,
somehow.
yeah, more than likely.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, his
yeah,
work is phenomenal.
yeah. He's been a big influence on me as far as the world element goes, and he's the one that turned me on to Six Degrees record label, which I then met Bob Duskus and Jeff Stott and some of my Bay Area friends who have been pioneering that whole movement over the last couple decades in the San Francisco area, and just been putting out phenomenal music, which has also impacted me a lot. And a lot of the shows I ended up playing was just through working with those guys. So yeah, so I have a lot of respect for everything they're doing, and the Dirt Wire crew is also a part of that label, and which some of the artists from that group I've worked with in the past year.
Hmm.
So that's kind of the collaboration element that came into play when I moved out west.
Now, let me ask you, before you got into or introduced, I guess, to Chebby Sabah, you had an extensive background in ethnomusicology. Now, did you study that and do your traveling before or after you moved over to the San Francisco area?
That started before I moved out to the west. I was just living in Utah, and I started listening to Chevy Sabad at that time,
Hmm.
along with a lot of other, coming out of that more hardcore phase of listening to Faith No More and Nirvana and all of these things as a
Right, right.
youth. I then just kind of expanded my palette a little bit and just ventured into some new realms, and even the hip hop scene was really captivating to me, like Jurassic 5 and all of these groups that were putting out kind of motivating, like um, just inspiring hip hop. So that all came into play as well for me, and I really dove headfirst into all that, trying to figure out how to make it, as well as dub music and reggae. And I just was just blown away by the production level that I was hearing.
Hmm.
And to answer your question about the ethnomusicology, I just started learning more, getting outside my bubble basically, and learning more about all the different instruments that were used around the world. So actually, at a university, I dove into that, and just to kind of get a more well-rounded perspective on what's out there and what people were using in different cultures to create this sort of tribal vibe. So there's a big African and Arabic inspiration in what I do as well. Yeah.
Now, one thing that at least I think Americans need more is exposure to other cultures. So I'd love to have your opinion on what musical traditions, specifically, do you think more Americans should expose themselves to?
Um, yeah, I mean, I've always been curious about music, and I know people really gravitate towards specific genres, but I really believe there's good music that come from all genres.
Hmm.
So, I mean, one day I'll be listening to Indian mantras, for instance, but that's because it lends itself to what I like to do, like yoga and things like that.
Hmm.
I understand that certain styles of music fit people's lifestyles better, so I think a lot of people kind of go with what works for them at the time.
Right, right.
Um, but I think people should explore all different types of music, you know, as far as that's what works for me. And I definitely get into moods where I'm listening to one. Like lately, I've been really into just Latin music because there's a tribal kind of element to that music as well that's really beautiful. And um, so, yeah, I mean, my tastes tend to be eclectic and shift all around all over the place, but I understand people like what's comfortable with to them as well.
Hmm.
Um, and people really like specific genres. I think there's something to be said about getting outside your comfort zone and trying new things, kind of like going to a new restaurant, you know?